Everything is changing, growing, and evolving, even you. From the nurse's student to the baby nurse, off the bedside nurse and into entrepreneurship, you have evolved. So now we're here at the Evolved Nurse Podcast. I'm your host, Lakeisha, and let's get right into the episode. Hello, listeners. Today we have Miss Ashley Langston, aka Nurse Swat, a nurse, a mom, and one of the greatest teachers I know. Initially, I had a podcast and started a series called My Journey to Nursing, and I asked her to join me because honestly, I wouldn't be the nurse I am today without her help and guidance. So instead of talking about my journey, we will speak to her about hers and how she's evolved. So, Ashley, welcome to the Evolved Nurse Podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate that.
No problem. So, here on this podcast, we like to talk about how we started since the beginning. So, as a student nurse and graduating into where you are today. So, we will start right there at the beginning. So, Ashley, did you initially want to be a nurse?
It's crazy that you asked me that. I actually did not. I remember in the seventh grade when my mom made me do a science fair project on a woman having a C section,
Mhm.
and I was absolutely mortified. I swore at that point I would never enter the medical field. But as I grew older, got older, I actually had a son. I was working in retail and I was on my hands and knees and I prayed to God, for him to guide me on what my calling and my purpose was on this earth.
Mhm.
And I actually ended up going to get a CNA license just to see if I'd actually liked the aspect of nursing. Became a CNA and I absolutely fell in love with geriatrics. That's where it started in a nursing home.
Okay.
That led me to further my education to becoming a nurse. And I actually still like it to this day.
I know you really do love your job. So, how long have you actually been a nurse?
Coming up in April will be 5 years for me.
Ooh, 5 years. Okay. All right. So, what can you, because I know since you started off as a CNA, being a CNA is a lot different from being a nurse. So, did you have any preconceived notions about nurses when you were a CNA?
I actually did not. I was very observant of
Hmm.
those around me. I knew what I wanted to be, what type of nurse I wanted to be, and what I did not based on the nurses that I worked with.
Gotcha. So, when you went to nursing school, what were some of the obstacles that you came in contact with?
Whew. One, trying to juggle all my responsibility. I remember asking one of my professors because he actually was giving me the story on how he was married, he had multiple children, working two jobs, and trying to get through nursing school. And I took him aside one day after one of the lectures and I asked him, how did you do it? How did you get through nursing school? I
Hmm.
said, because it is a lot. And he said, I'll give you the best advice that I knew worked for me. He says, sleep when you can, not when you want to. And at that time, I was actually a single mother working two jobs and trying to get through an accelerated nursing program. And based on what he told me, in order to juggle all that responsibility, I was able to get down my sleeping schedule to 4 to 5 hours to be able to function throughout the day and take care of what I needed to take care of.
Okay. Because I know on a previous podcast, I talked about how nursing school isn't truly set up for people who have a lot of responsibilities. It's really set up for people who don't have to work. So it's a lot harder for us to get through the programs when we have to work 2 to 3 jobs and make sure that we're taking care of all the responsibilities that we have to take care of.
I
So you Go ahead.
I agree with that.
So you balanced all of that with being a mom, working two jobs, and I really commend you for that because a lot of people aren't able to balance everything the way that you did and still be a great nurse. Because I know sometimes it's hard to compartmentalize and not take all the stresses that you have in your life to work.
That's very true. Very true. You have to have a strong mindset, a determined mindset to
Mhm.
know what to leave and where to leave it.
So, aside from you having to balance being a mom, did you ever have any trouble like with I want to say like the testing aspect or any of that in nursing school?
I can say for the most part, not really, based on the
Mhm.
school that I went to. I went to Chamberlain. It was a private college at that time. It has now since became a university. But they prepped us very well. Um,
Mhm.
it I can say it was tough, but if you buckled down and you studied and you did what you were supposed to do, I always tell people, it's how bad you want it. And that
Mhm.
that determines how much work and effort you're going to put towards whatever it is you're trying to do. And that's exactly what I did.
I love that. Um so how did you schedule yourself for studying around everything that you had going on?
So during this season, I should say, of going to school and working two jobs, I actually was a night CNA. So during the nights, after I took care of my patients, got them settled, that's when I would open up my books and I'd actually be able to study on my job.
Okay. I know it's been 5 years, but what resources did you use then in order to help you through school?
The number one resource was my mom because she was actually an RN. She was a registered
Oh,
nurse. Two, I had plenty of colleagues that were also interested in, dropping knowledge around me as I was working.
okay. So you just utilized the people that were around you basically.
Yes.
That's really good because some people they don't have those people and then some people they have people in their lives that are like that but they're afraid to ask.
Yes. Some people are, and again, that falls on how bad do you want it? How,
Mhm.
it challenges you to open up and get out your comfort zone.
Yes, you literally cannot operate in a space of comfort when you're trying to become a nurse or when you want something because there are always going to be obstacles that are going to be in your way and if you allow yourself to succumb to any of those, like you don't want it that bad. So, where are we now? So, I know that you're a traveler. So, how was your travel assignments?
Uh, Travel assignment, some were okay, and I can say some was a little bit tough.
Mhm.
And when I say tough, it's just the fact that, of course, as we continue to go through nursing, we've just had a shortage. We just came out of a pandemic, which means all of our baby boomer nurses went into retirement earlier
Mhm.
than expected. As I traveled, I've been to Maryland, which I actually did two assignments in. I loved it in Maryland.
Mhm.
Um, I went to Tennessee, I've been to North Carolina, and I've been to Cleveland, Ohio. And it's just a lack of resource. Uh, the one thing I can say being a travel nurse, you really have to be independent. A lot of nurses, are very dependent, which it's supposed to be that way because you're supposed to have a team of workers. But these days, that's not always the case. I've had where I've had to be the CNA and the nurse,
Mhm.
and the social worker, helping the patients get what they need, provide them with not just the bedside manner and care that they need, but sometimes also the psychological needs that they have.
So I'm gonna, because I completely skipped over your floor experience and went straight into your travel experience. But I actually met you on the floor. I met you on a COVID unit. Did not know what I was walking into, but because I had your help and your guidance, I was able to navigate being there, having to understand death in a different aspect because I never had dealt with death on that level. And I don't think anybody had experienced death like that unless they were there, when they came in through the AIDS era.
Yes.
But when it came to us, this was our pandemic. Like, this was the pandemic that we actually experienced. So, how was it being on the floor before COVID?
Well, before that unit actually became a COVID unit, we were just, mainly cardiac pulmonary. Um, Very different. I'm more of a fast paced nurse, which I guess is why I was able to branch over into the COVID aspect easier. Uh, but very different. Obviously, like you said, the numbers of death had went up.
Hmm.
Um, it was very, I'd say, mild mannered. As we progressed and actually changed over to a COVID unit and we started seeing the number of deaths actually go up, it was a little bit more challenging, you know. Because one thing about me is I interact with my patients not just on a physical aspect, but a spiritual aspect as well. So I'm able to minister to them on what they're supposed to be doing in the physical, but also what they need to be doing spiritually to help them get better. Uh, when it came to working in the COVID unit, um, that wasn't always the case. Some of our patients got intubated very quickly. I remember taking her hand to go see one patient, one particular patient that had the heart of us. He had a young son that was about my son's age that played basketball. But unfortunately, he did end up passing. But before that, took this nurse by her hand into that room just to say, our last words of goodbye. And it was the first time that I actually broke down in tears,
Hmm.
um, seeing this patient laying in this bed, somebody that I saw thriving that I thought was actually going to go home. And that actually was not the case for this patient. So it was very difficult um, in that season,
Yes.
spiritually and mentally.
Yes. Whew, Ashley, you already know. Like, for both you and I, it was very hard because we created some bonds with some of our patients that were unforgettable. And then we would
Yes,
come in one day and they would be gone.
yes,
Like,
very quickly.
it was a very hard time. So during that time, how did you keep your mental state intact?
So, one thing I always carry with me on my job is my Bible. And when I feel like the stress is actually getting to me, I actually pull that out and I will read. I also carry a few other books as well, but that is what helped me mainly get through that season.
Okay. Because we needed all the prayers. That was a really tough experience, especially for the nurses, like fresh out of nursing school, who didn't
Yeah.
see it at first and were thrown. Everybody was pretty much thrown into COVID.
Yes.
But when you have like this goal of being a nurse because you want to help people, and then you are already engulfed into your patients, because I know that as a nurse I really wanted to help people. So it was so crazy for me to spend all my time, all the time that I could with our patients, and then see them go the way that they did. Because sometimes, like you just said, they would be thriving, they would be like coming off the ventilator, they would be moving around, and then all of a sudden, something would happen.
Yes. Yes.
So, to lighten up the mood just a little bit, how did you get the nickname Nurse SWAT?
Whew. So everybody knows that I am one of the most compassionate nurses, but I'm also stern.
Mm,
Nurse SWAT came about handling a particular patient, which, I was very excited to actually see that this patient took what I told them to heart, got better, changed his life around. And that's how I actually ended up getting the nickname Nurse SWAT because they know I don't play about my patients.
oh, I know that for myself because you don't play about your patients, you don't play about your career, you don't like you really thrive off of like your morals and your standards as a nurse and as a person.
Yes, definitely. You have to. You have to, be one thing I wanted to be in nursing is a standout nursing because I'm not just representing myself, I'm representing a higher power. I'm
Hmm.
representing my family, my children, I'm representing, God rest his soul, my dad.
Hmm.
Those are the things that help me to thrive and do what I need to do in life to be a standout nurse, an extraordinary nurse.
And that you are like, I'm telling you, you make an impact on so many people, and it's probably people that you don't even know that you've made an impact on, but you have. And that's really why I really wanted to tell you, because I think I've always told you how much you meant to me as a nurse, but I really wanted you to be on here because I know that anybody that's listening, they can gain some enlightenment from you.
Oh, thank you so much.
You are welcome, Ashley.
It is. It's my pleasure to be, of service to others in helping them actually fulfill their fulfillment, their purpose in this role.
Yes, and I'm really glad that you were placed in my life for that. And so I do want to ask you, what advice would you give to a person who has no idea what they want to do right now? Because, like you said, you didn't want to be a nurse yet. Like, that's not something that you wanted to do. But for the person who wants to go into nursing, what advice would you give to them?
Uh, I would say work in a lower caliber first.
Hmm.
Like I said, I went and became a CNA just to see if I'd like the aspect. I find that those who are CNAs prior to being nurses actually transition a whole lot better.
Hmm.
It also gives you that servant mindset and the heart that you need to survive as a nurse.
I can.
Even with dealing with difficult patients, because sometimes you're going to deal with some difficult patients. um, you'll understand the reason um, behind what you do and be able to keep the standard, uphold the standard and the morals that you have for taking care of those patients as well.
I completely understand because I was a medical, what did they call us? It was a CNA, but I didn't have my certificate. But I worked in long term care as well. And I have seen where people who work in that area first, they thrive because they have a lot of empathy and compassion.
Yes.
Um, and I remember actually during my clinicals, we had to go into long term care, and so many people were complaining because they were like, I don't want to have to wipe butts.
Well, I'm sorry to bust the bubble, but that comes with part of this job.
That
And
is
it
part of
does
our
not
job.
matter whether you're CNA, nurse, nurse manager, sometimes have to come out to the floor to assist. Um, that's also how I tell people on how they should choose their spouses as well. Is if you can't see yourself wiping their butt, it's not for you.
Yeah. Literally never heard anybody say it like that before, Ashley, but you know what? That's true.
Yes, yes. When you're willing to go that far,
Mhm.
that's how you'll know what is for you.
Mhm. Cuz I know that a lot of nurses, they don't recognize that part of their scope of practice is like if the CNA doesn't do it, it falls back on your license because
Correct.
you are their direct supervisor.
Yeah,
So most of the time, they don't recognize what their scope of practice is when it comes to being a nurse.
that's
So
true.
when they go into nursing, they just feel like, okay, I'm here to make money, because sometimes it's not about purpose for them, it's about money for them, which is fine as long as you do a great job. But when it's not about purpose, a lot of things fall through the cracks, especially when it comes to CNA work that people feel like is just CNA work.
Correct. And they don't last that long in the field, of course,
Hmm.
when they're not purpose driven. Those that are just for it, in it for the money, they're not really going to last in that environment too long.
That's true. Because actually, I've been trying to get out of nursing so bad. I
Oh,
have been trying to get out of nursing, and nursing will not let me go.
oh gosh.
My goodness. Um, with that being said, I did want to ask you. I know that you have a lot of things that you do, because you're a very um kind of do a little bit of everything type of person.
Yes.
So, have you done anything like outside of the bedside, used nursing in order to fund another purpose that you have?
So yes, nursing has been a means for me to be able to actually do, of course, provide for my family, and take care of bills and stuff. But it also has actually helped me to go down, uh, branch off into investments. So I'm one of those people that actually like to trade the stock market. That's one of the other things that I do on the side.
Hmm.
I've also recently branched into digital, and creative, video work. So
Oh.
that's something that you guys will probably see here in the near future. It's something that I've always been interested in.
Hmm.
I God has blessed me with too many gifts just to sit on them.
Hmm.
So, yes, nursing has actually provided those opportunities for me to be able to branch out a little bit further into some of my other gifts to share with the world.
Okay. So I know that you've done your stock market trading. So how did you make your so when was the first time that you decided to jump into the stock market?
So, it was actually during nursing school. I started all my research during nursing school. But of course, having to study so hard for my tests and stuff, it had to be put on the back burner. So I
Hmm.
picked it up after I graduated. But I initially ran across a YouTube video and I was like, wow, this is actually, it looks fun. When I was a kid, I used to play video games all the time. So that's what it looks like to me. It's just a big video game. Only you got to figure out how to make money from it.
Hmm.
So it was an opportunity I took. I'm still obviously learning because even in nursing, you're still going to be learning.
Hmm.
um, but yeah, I actually like that. It's something I'm actually putting together a program to actually be able to teach other people how to do that as well.
Okay. So please let us know whenever you drop your program, because I'll pay for it.
Most definitely, I will. I'll keep you in the loop.
Yes, and with your digital and creative video work, Is that something that like you're artistically doing, or is that something that like you're compilating? So you're pulling from different areas to create something.
So it's more of an artistic because I've always been an artist. More so for s- I'm revamping my social media sites to draw in a few more viewers, a few more followers. So it's going down that aspect, I should say. But
Okay.
more going for more of an aesthetic um, feel, I should say.
Okay. So, coming up on the end of this episode, I do like to ask, are there any books that you are reading right now that you would like for other people to read that has led you to where you are today?
Um, Gosh, there actually is. I will have to get you the name on it. I haven't picked it up
Hmm.
in a while, but I like to read psychology books. It's one thing that actually helped me with my investments, knowing how to actually manage emotions during certain things that happen. It helped me in my nursing field as well.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of people are, when we're in codes and stuff in nursing, they're like, "Oh, you don't show any emotions," and then actually, some of these books have actually helped me with that.
Yeah, just being analytical as
Yes,
opposed to
correct.
being as emotion driven. I know because I actually went to long term care, so I just got out of management and long term care. And when we would do codes, like because of where we came from in doing codes, like we were shown a different way. We couldn't operate off of emotion because if we operated off of emotion, we weren't going to get anything done, honestly.
Right, that's true. That is very
So
true.
so we just became very analytical. Like, what do you need? What do we need? What does the room need right now?
Correct, correct.
So I I feel like it's a book called The Psychology of Money. Is that one book that you read?
No, I actually haven't heard of that one yet.
If I find it, I'm going to send it to you.
Okay, that'd be awesome.
So, is there anything that you would like the listeners to know about you?
Uh, Honestly, I think we've covered covered just about everything uh, as far as my journey has gone. Um, One thing I know is, nursing is still my main hustle.
Mm-hmm.
While I'm cultivating other gifts to be able to share with the world, um, I want to encourage those who are trying to branch into this environment, into this field, to really take an evaluation of who they are,
Mm-hmm.
um, and know how you actually interact with people. Um, I'm still somewhat of an introvert, which is why I work at night. I don't have to deal with a lot of the family members that day shift has to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
I get to come in, take care of my patients, focus on my patients, and I get to go back home to my family. So you have to know who you are and know what will work for you. Um, you still have to be an extrovert as well just to be able to interact with people. So I kind of have that dual personality.
Okay. Do you ever think that you will go off the bedside?
I actually do. Um, I'm still contemplating right now whether I'm going for nurse practicing or CRNA school. Wherever God leads me, which way to go, which avenue to take, that's where I'll be actually going.
Well, I would be so excited to see you as an NP, a DNP, or in CRNA school, wherever you land. You'll be great at whatever you do.
Thank
Um,
you. Thank you.
so I really do want to thank you for coming on this podcast because you didn't have to do it, but you did.
Anything for you, Lakeisha.
Thank you. Well, that is the conclusion of this podcast. I hope that you all enjoyed it. And where can they find you, Ashley?
Well, you can find me on my Instagram at Bouts of Ash. That's BOUTZOFASH. You can also find me on Facebook by my full name, Ashley Langston.
All right. And y'all be on the lookout for her program. Also, whenever she drops her digital and creative work, y'all should all flood her and go follow her. Thank you for coming, Ashley.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it so much.
No problem. Have a great day.
You too. Bye bye.
All right. Navigating the community in nursing is so hard sometimes. So, it's me, your host, Keish, and I am going to give you an opportunity to send me some questions anonymously and tell me what your experience in nursing is. So, on the next episode, you might just hear your question. All right. Y'all have a great day. I hope you enjoyed the podcast.